from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's here to keep you company and take welcome. Hello, I'm a podcaster here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff. Or that's if you're new, I'm trying to. I don't know. I guess that didn't work. I was imagining myself walking into an interview. But I said, that doesn't help me make the very beginning of a sleep podcast. But really, if you're new, I'm kind of applying for you to barely listen to me, which is a weird job to apply for. And it's a job I've been doing for 11 years plus. So I think I'm pretty qualified because I go off topic, I get mixed up. I try to be friendly, but forgettable. And what I offer is a podcast maybe in a style you've never listened to before on purpose, but a podcast that has the spirit of stuff you've done before, like put a TV on or something playing on your phone and you barely pay attention to it, or you put on something spoken word, an audiobook or a podcast or a sporting event or the radio. Maybe it's drifting through the window and you're kind of listening to it, but you're not paying attention. But the thing is, it's just occupying enough of that space that you feel something relieving, something distracting, so you can get comfortable and fall asleep. So it takes your mind off of stuff. And that's really what Sleep With Me is here to do. And I do it in a very silly, meandering way. But I'm glad you're here. If you're new, just check this show out a few times. There's no pressure to like me or the podcast or to fall asleep. Just see how it goes, because I hope I can help you out. So I'm glad you're here. The structure shows what we got coming up is support, then a long meandering intro meant to ease you into bedtime, and then later on a bedtime story to help you fall asleep. So I'm really glad you're here. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. I really hope we can help you fall asleep. What else do you know? If you're new or you occasionally listen to the show, don't worry. But if you're a regular listener or all-night listener, 5-night-a-week listener, and you want to opt in to be a part of the show's a part of your life. And you want to opt in and be a part of the life of the show, right? So we can be here for you, the super listener, the stupor listener. That's what these things coming up are, because you can opt into the show by supporting the show directly, supporting the sponsors, or spreading the word about the show. And you can get good feelings, and you can get a thank you from me when you do that. And you'll get a thank you now. And I thank you, too, if you're a casual listener or a listener that says, nah, no thank you, or you're new. I'm glad you're here. I really thank you for coming by. And if you do want to opt in, here's a couple ways you can do it. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Helix Sleep, and they've got some amazing deals coming up. You're going to hear about it at the end of this ad read, so do not miss out. I want you to right now to open up your phone. Just do it with me. I'm going to go to helixsleep.com/sleep, and if I were you, I wouldn't want to, I don't know what your relationship with your bed is right now. I've had a long-term relationship with my Helix mattress. It fits my needs, how I sleep. I sleep on my side, I sleep on my stomach, but now I'm sleeping more on my back, and I'm relocating, and unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I could ship my mattress because I have to move my stuff before I move. But that's okay. It means I get a new Helix. So I'm going to take the Helix quiz right now, helixsleep.com/sleep. 30 seconds. And you give, okay, 1 or 2 sleepers. 1. Okay, let me put in my email. Put in my name here, give a little bit of information. Okay, what size mattress am I considering? I got that down. All right. I don't know if are you taking this quiz with me at helixsleep.com/sleep? All right, toss. I guess I toss and turn. So I'm going to pick toss and turn. And what kind of firmness? Okay, I'm going to pick my firmness that fits my needs. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get yours, Okay, I'm going to talk about my back there, talk about temperature. All right, I got matched with my mattress. Oh, boy, and it's a different one than I have now just because I made a couple changes to how I sleep. So I'm going to check this out and think about it for my next Helix I'm going to be sleeping in. So take that Helix quiz. It's going to be coming right to your door, but most of all, it'll be a mattress that fits you, your needs, and how you sleep. And the best news is that Helix has amazing deals for Sleep With Me listeners, but only if you use our link. So go to helixsleep.com/sleep for 25% off site-wide during their extended Labor Day sale. That's helixsleep.com/sleep for 25% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. All right, everybody, it's Scoots here, and this message is going out to all-night listeners. Any all-night listeners, right? All-night listeners, everybody. Well, actually, it's just going out to you. Are you an all-night listener? But this message is for that one all-night listener who's listening to me and hear me right now. As you listen all night long, me and a bunch of other listeners are here rooting for you. Night after night, hour after hour, every single night, everything we put into the show. We're rooting for you to have that comfort. 8, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, however many hours a night you listen. And I hope you're the one hearing me and listening to me right now, because you get a chance to get even deeper with this. Like, do you want to root for somebody else that's an all-night listener like you? Do you want to root for them right now? Send them some comfort across the deep, dark night? Or do you want to send it to somebody else who listens differently than you? To root for a new listener? Or somebody that just lost someone? Or somebody that's getting ready to go back to school? Or somebody that just changed work schedules? Do you want to root for that listener? Or do you want to feel all those listeners rooting for you? Just like I talk about on the show. Sending their comfort to you across the deep, dark night? Or do you want to do both? Do you want to give out that comfort and receive some of it? And then do you want to root for one of those all-night listeners that's listening right now? If it's not you, do you want to root for someone else to support the show? Because we do need to, especially those all-night listeners. You're one of the groups of super listeners that are going to make the difference in the future of Sleep With Me. So do you want to root for one of the other all-night listeners to support the show right now? Or do you want to hear all those listeners? Maybe you're the one that's listening to me, hearing me right now, and then you could feel all those other listeners. They know you've been meaning to support the show. They know you're an all-night listener just like them. The podcast has changed your life. And you've just been putting off supporting the show or saying, I'll do it one day. Or, I got to cancel those 2 streaming services I don't really use. Feel all those people rooting for you to go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. I'm rooting for you, too. But I'm rooting for every listener, right? And that's why I'm asking, because I want to keep making this podcast. I do not want this show behind a paywall. I want it out there for every super listener, every new listener, every situational listener, and for you. So, but if you're the one everybody's rooting for, don't wait. Go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus to support the show right now. Thanks. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your narrators. Get support support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. And don't forget, the most comfortable way to listen to Sleep With Me is with sleep phones. You can get sleep phones at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep-phones and use Sleep With Me for $5 off at checkout. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep-phones. Use Sleep With Me at checkout. What do you say we get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever is keeping you awake. That could be things on your mind, thoughts about the past, the present, the future, thoughts that are just making an appearance. My thoughts make a grand entrance and then stick around. They do a lot of clomping. In fact, we did a show about the Clomps holiday show. I don't know, clomping, I guess, is a descriptive way of walking loudly, and in a way that's not associated with clomping. It's not bad. I mean, I tried to frame it with episode. Maybe we'll do another episode with the Clomps. I guess that's what we could do tonight. But it's just a way of movement that's not normally associated with well, definitely not associated with sleep. So thoughts that are clomping around that have appeared, they could be clogging, tap dance. You'd say, could you, if I'm going to have thoughts about tap dancers, could they be like silent tap dancers, or a metaphor for I'd prefer no tap dancing thoughts anywhere near bedtime. Maybe 3 hours, but I say if you're going to see a show with tap dancing, what time would you want to see it? Well, about 3 hours before bed, right? Because the show ends, then I drive home, or however I get home, that's an hour. Then I still have 2 hours. Okay, 2.5 hours I could even give you. Then I get home, have a half hour to mess around, and then an hour to wind down. And that's like a show of tap dancing. If my thoughts are going to be tap dancing, please, I'd prefer you do the tap dancing thoughts between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., but kind of like caffeine, like nothing, no tap dancing thought. And they'd say, sorry, we just do what we do, man. When they say you do you, that also gives us, especially, tap dancing thoughts, full permission to us do us. Well, I never take that, I don't need, when people say you do you, I always get mixed up by it anyway, So I don't know if you really need to do that, tap, you don't need to take that either. If you're within me, maybe you could be confused by that instead of saying, well, we're tap dancing thoughts. We need to do us. Any time of day the mood strikes, you'd say, for the love of Fosse. Could you do an alliterative thing? Not this second. We can't. We don't want to do it. We're not doing. We're passing on that. Yeah, you're right. It's tough to do alliterative Fosse. Faucets of friendly faucets of Fossing. Okay, you did try that. But I'm just saying, could you just do? Oh, we don't. We're just thoughts. We just get activated. We don't even know, to be honest, once we do us, we're doing it. We don't plan it. Okay. I guess, can we agree? Okay. I get it. I guess I see you tap dancing thoughts. I get it. You just get, you don't, you do you, but it just starts to happen suddenly, usually at bedtime. Correct. Yeah. We know it's not ideal. So, but that's just us. We're doing us. Okay. Okay, I can agree with that. So it could be thoughts like that. And sometimes you have to handle them in that way. It took me a while. Maybe listen to that. With those kind of thoughts, you can't, I don't know, that was we worked that out directly. We didn't actually find a solution. We're in process. We're in process of us being us, our tap dancing thoughts being them. But, yeah, so that's interesting. So it could be thoughts, could be feelings that are coming up, emotions related to those thoughts, or anything else. It could be physical sensations, time, changes in time, temperature, routine. You could be going through something, getting over something, in the middle of something. Whatever it is, I'm here to keep you company and take your mind off whatever's keeping you awake, which you might say, well, why'd you just point it out? It's a good question. The reason I bring up some of this stuff is so that you know that maybe you could be in the right place. You don't even have to know you're in the right place, but you get the sense of like, this is a place where I'm understood, or at least there's the desire for understanding. Because if anybody, I mean, there's other people listening. Not everybody listens says, when someone says you do you, I get mixed up. I get some performance anxiety. I said, wait a second, my people pleaser turns on. And then also I say, well, I'm not exactly sure what that means. And they'd say, on which level? I say, well, every level, pretty much all the levels. Yeah. I mean, me doing me is me avoiding, yeah, let's be straight up. I just avoid, that's me being me. I'm going to avoid this altogether. Or could we do it later? Well, later when? When I'm more prepared, when I'm more prepared for it. So I'll do me one day, not today. Or I'll do me by, but you know what I'm saying? But not everybody that's listening is like that. And I don't know exactly what's keeping you awake, right? But I know when I struggle with sleep, and when I've struggled with sleep throughout my life, or however you want to phrase it, I know what it feels like for me. And I've been in a lot of different situations and dealt with a lot of different things. So I know what the feelings in the middle are. Maybe they're not underlying feelings, but they're feelings that are just there. And I think we kind of maybe can share some of those, or share an understanding of like, yeah. Because I know there's probably like 30, 40% of people are like, oh no, I can do me. I know how to do me. And I said, great. That's cool. So I can appreciate that. And maybe you can appreciate my confusion around it, or maybe you can't. I don't know, but we have this place where we can agree, like that we're all holding our hands up sometimes, like not in a shrug, but like a what? And the other thing is, here's the even better news of why I talk about this, is because there's enough people listening that whatever's keeping you awake, and sometimes it takes a while to feel good about this, but there's someone else listening somewhere in the world. Somewhere else in the world. Isn't that amazing? And they really do understand what you're going through, because they've been through something very similar. And they're rooting for you. They're like, man, I really hope this podcast can help you like it helped me. I didn't think to look for a podcast where it's a guy just clomping around word-wise. And he's a little bit different. He's a little bit odd. But I found this show, and it helps me in some way with all that stuff I'd struggled with for so long, or whatever I'm going through right now. And they know, like they know what it feels like for you. They say, wow, yeah, I felt some of those same feelings, or, those things. I know what it's like. And that's all they're doing. It's like silently, or maybe like with a smile or a gesture, or with their eyes softened or opened or closed. With some kind of welcoming softness, they're glad you're here and hopeful for you. And whether it's this podcast or I can introduce you to something else that ends up helping you get the rest you need and you deserve, I'm glad you're here. And so is someone who really gets you out there in the world. And think about that tomorrow when you're out there in the world, like that there's someone else out there who does get it. And this isn't some nonsense I'm saying. This is the truth because I hear from listeners. I'm only getting defensive with my internal critic or a little stern with my internal critic because my internal critic, maybe yours is like that too, wants to say no. But it is true. And the thing with the listener who's rooting for you right now, all they hope, because some of you are regular listeners and you're going through something, and some of you are new, some of you are in between or whatever. But all they hope for is that you could be the one rooting for someone new one day on the show. And maybe you're rooting for somebody who's, you could already do that when you're new. So I'm really glad you're here. And I really believe you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a bedtime where you could get the rest you need. So tomorrow your life is more manageable. You get the rest you need on a regular basis. So that you don't have to, like sleep becomes less of a struggle and something you can ease into. And ideally, whether it's sleep with me or something else, that you get the rest you need on a regular basis where you could be out there in the world flourishing. And that means our world's a better place to be in because your world's a better place to be in. The world really does need you, or like it's a better place with you in it, right? And especially when you're flourishing and feeling good or, you know, being your whole self. I don't know. So it's just, these are the things that are important to me, why I've made this show for 12 years, week in and week out, because it's important and because you're important. And I know it takes a reminder sometimes to know that, yeah, there's somebody else in the world, out there in the world that gets it and is kind and welcoming. And I get to connect the two of you in this indirect way. Or the other side is, and some people are experiencing, like I said, is like you're getting to connect, you're getting to send that out, and you get to root for somebody else out there in the world who's gone through something like you're going through or you've gone through. So that's really the magic of the show. On top of that magic, or obscuring the magic, is how the show works, which is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents, which means I go off topic, I get mixed up, then I repeat myself, or I go on tangents like I just did, talk to other parts of my brain, whatever. I don't even know what was coming up before, or clomping. And that's all to take your mind off stuff and keep you company so you could fall asleep. So it does take some getting used to, the idea of a podcast to put you to sleep that you don't really listen to. That takes 20 minutes to get started because it's easing you into bedtime. If you get here and you're tired, you're going to be skeptical, doubtful, maybe even a little bit grouchy, and that's understandable. Because if I found this podcast, I would be all those things, right? If I was looking for something to help me fall asleep and someone told me about it or I found it in a search, and all I can say is stick around and see how it goes, because this podcast is supposed to help you out, but it doesn't help everybody out. If you stick around and see how it goes, or you already know that this isn't going to work out, don't worry. I have everything I said is still true. Even if you strongly loathe me, and I have a website set up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. And that has other sleepy stuff on there and stuff, because people have strongly loathed me for the whole time I've made the podcast. And I learned from saying, hey, let's step out of this kind of exhausting cycle where you do a slam dunk on me, and then I read it and say, wait a second, these people still need to sleep too. So that's what sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank yous for. So check it out if it doesn't work out. So it's a podcast you don't really listen to. It's also a podcast that doesn't put you to sleep. It's a podcast that it keeps you company while you fall asleep. I'm here to tell you there's no pressure to fall asleep with this show. That's the reason the episodes are over an hour is so you don't have, you say, oh, wait, I don't have to worry about falling asleep. I got plenty of time. And there's people listening who can't sleep at all or who need a break during the day. And I'm here, whether you're awake or asleep, whether you're listening or not, so that you don't have to worry about listening or falling asleep. I'm here to be your bore friend, your bore bae, your bore sib, your neighbor, your bore bud, your bore bee, your bores, your boreman, your bore friend, your bore bestie. What did I already say that stuff? Your bore law, your Boris Borloff. Your bore sib, your bore cuz, your bore bruh, your best bore friend forever. And just to take your mind off stuff and keep you company so you could fall asleep. And that's different too, right? You say you're going to be here and I'm going to barely listen to you. Yeah, I'm kind of like a TV on in the other room or a boring roommate or friend who you can listen to who's not annoying. I mean, during the day it might be. You say, well, I'm trying to think here. You're talking about the difference between clogging and clomping. Oh, no, that'll be the bedtime story we talk about later. Yeah. Oh, great. So, yeah, just see, if you're new, just see how it goes. The structure of the show is the only other thing that I like to meet people where they are. If you're new or you're trying to figure out how does this show fit in your life, we structure the show in the way to benefit the most people we can based on the feedback and the way people have listened throughout the years. But there are ways to adjust the show. So most people like listening to this ad-supported version linearly, which means they just put it on, they press play, they wind it down during the intro. First they hear the greeting, right? Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. New people, they get an idea. Okay, this podcast does sound friendly and silly. Regular listeners get the reassurance they're in the right place. Everybody gets this idea. You're seen and welcomed in. And then there's sponsors, right? So the show paying for it's optional. If you prefer something without ads, you could get that on Sleep With Me Plus. Then after the sport is a long meandering intro. And that intro is meant to ease you into bedtime. It's meant to follow a familiar structure, but be different every time. So that whatever keeps you awake can't quite get used to it. But it says, oh, there goes Scoots again. Going off topic. So that's why the intro is like 15 to 20 minutes long. It's not part of the support. It's not, it's just to ease you into bedtime. It's like friends hanging out, chatting. And you're like, but you haven't said anything. You said you could have said everything you said in 2 minutes. I say, yeah, right. But this is a podcast to help ease you into bedtime and then put you to sleep. So if you find you don't like the intros or you want to supplement your Sleep With Me listening, you could get that at Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me in any podcast app. And that show's just like this show. So it's sponsor supported. So if you just want to listen to that version without paying for anything, you can. And the great thing is podcast apps are free too. And most podcast apps are listener supported. So, or supported by the platform they're on. So yeah, you could listen to either one of those, but the intro goes on and on and on. If you want to be eased into bedtime, people are getting ready for bed, getting comfortable in bed. Or like doing some sort of wind down activity. So that's what the intro does. Then there's support. Then it'll be our bedtime story. Sounds like tonight it'll be something about the Clomps, which I think was I'm pretty sure it was the Clomps. I'll have to look that up too. And yeah, also they'll be here for about an hour. You could always set a sleep timer for 45 minutes or 60 minutes or 30 minutes. The cool thing is there's a lot of different podcast apps and you can kind of work with your podcast. You can kind of make playlists or work with the settings in your podcast app to customize podcasts for you. And we put a variety of stuff out on Sleep With Me Plus too, but we also are always, this show comes out consistently and it has for the whole time. And it comes out with a variety of styles of episodes. So you could kind of pick and choose what works best for you. And that goes back to what I've been saying the whole time. Is like, I'm glad you're here. I really do hope this show can help you out. I work really hard. So do a team of people. We yearn and strive. We really hope we can help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to do this for you regularly. If you want to opt in, if you're a regular listener and this show's a part of your life, if you're new or you're, just dipping your toes in or whatever, don't worry about it though. Thanks. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Zocdoc. And, as time passes and I get a little more seasoned, or some people might use the word older, I think to myself, maybe I should call the doctor about this. Maybe I should go to the doctor more, whether it's trouble with my sleep, how I feel after eating certain kinds of meals, how my body processes that food, or lower back pain, whatever it is. While it can be tough to get to the doctor, I want to keep myself healthy, but it is not easy, right? If you've followed me this past year, it is not easy to find the right person for the right needs, get an appointment, and Zocdoc makes that easy. So easy to find the right fit and book an appointment fast directly on their website. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. With Zocdoc, you can book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are a good fit for any medical need you may have, and are highly rated by verified patients. And I've been dealing with a lot of stuff with my hand, and I'm moving. I'm going to be changing insurance, and I'm going to be trying to find a specialist to keep an eye on my hand. And I'm so relieved I know about Zocdoc, right? And I've heard listener stories of when they've moved, when they've changed insurance. So you got to check it out. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to Zocdoc.com/sleep to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/sleep. Zocdoc.com/sleep. Check it out. Thanks, everybody. Everybody, this is one of these episodes, Tales Never Told. And it's Tale Never Told. It's also a tale that I have no idea what I talked about in the intro. I know, because I know I'd promised myself I would research one of these tales never told about the Clomps, because I'm pretty sure the Clomps, who are famous for clomping around, came up in the intro. And I remembered another story that it can't come up in another intro, or maybe it was this one about the accidental Foley artist. And believe it or not, there's like these two stories actually intersect. So I apologize for whatever I said we may talk about in the intro, other than it'll be about the Clomps. There was another Clomp episode. And this episode's about two Clomps, Cornelia Clomp and Cornelius Clomp. At school, they were twins. And at school, unfortunately, they're known as Corny Clomps. And Clomps was their last name. Though it was a stage name because they were from the Clomp family. I mean, I don't know any other families, stage family names. There was before my time, there was the Partridge family, who were performers, and they had a TV show. And I have no idea if they were related or not. But I would assume, it's different when you're on TV, right? You're in the Brady's, you're in the Simpsons or whatever. Oh, that's animated. I don't know why that would be different. But if you perform on stage and you say, well, yeah, I'm Danny Partridge. Yeah, I don't know. So that's the Clomps, though they were a brother, and they were a real family. Formerly had another name years and years ago. and they chose a different name, Clomps. But that isn't the story. Tonight's story is about Cornelia and Cornelius, the corny Clomps. Though they embraced that title, and they would actually call each other Corn. Yes, Corn. Okay, Corn. So they kind of were more of the Corn Clomps. And this is their tale of how they became the accidental Foley artists. But it's just better if it's accidental Foley artist. Because there's a couple of things. One, it's difficult if you're, at school and your name's the Corny Clomps. But also they would wear clomp shoes, which are a bit like clogs, to school. And at every point, when people get to adolescence, sometimes they want to rebel or go on a journey, maybe a journey of self-discovery. And it's particularly important when you're making a sleep podcast to try to find these twisted, turning tales never told. So this was at a time when they were confused. Like, they had embraced, they realized they had friends at school. It wasn't like it was all bad. And they had their niche, and they knew they enjoyed performing, right? They just weren't sure, when you're raised in a clomp-based family, kind of like, this is, again, another tale never told. If there's a clogging version of this, it's different than tap dancing or even like a more niche type of dancing. No offense, but Irish dance, where I come from, is not considered niche. But I think in most of the country, it would be like a nicher form of dance. Once upon a time, there was a form of dance called jazz, which was, my sister took jazz classes when we had our dance recitals. There was jazz recitals. I don't know, but I don't know enough about dance. Like I'd say tap and ballet. Those are non-genre. I mean, those are genres of dance versus a niche. Right, versus clogging, which has surged in popularity at different times. More of a niche. I'm not trying to step on any toes. Accidental pun city here. But one niche of dancing that you don't know about is clogging. And clogging, it did have a heyday. In a different, there was in addition to the Borscht Belt for performing, there were other places to perform that were not in the glory of the Borscht Belt and vaudevillian performances. But, other places still needed performers too. And anyway, we're talking about the history of the Clomps. I'm here to tell a story of the corn Clomps, of our two corns. So whatever, they grew up in the Clomp, they grew up to be Clomps, and they liked it, but they said, I don't know, man. They're ready to go on a journey and rebel in a little sense. And one important thing about this is the ABCs of clomping, which maybe you would cover in the always be clomping. That's like one of the things that was instilled in them from their youth. Always be clomping. One, because your body kind of adjusts to wearing clomping shoes, which is funny because now there's clog is, within the fiction world of dance, a clog is like a wooden shoe. Though it's not all wooden shoes are clogs and not all clogs are wooden shoes. Obviously, but if you watch the Macy's parade, whenever they had clogging in it, which I have no idea when that was because I've been watching them out of order, there was clogging in it. I don't think you'd want to walk the Macy's parade in a wooden shoe. So maybe it was some sort of composite material, right? And corn, they also had composite material because clogs and clompers, they call them. These shoes are made for clomping, and that's just what we do. one of the first one said, one of these I'm going to design a shoe for clomping. But the shoes will be for me and you. So clomping and clogging are different, but not. It's just easier to give you something that you can barely understand versus something you can't understand at all. But, I was saying it's interesting is like in my mind, a composite clog or a composite clomper is a bit like a crock, not a crock like a bunch of baloney. I mean, those crock shoes, a little bit different. But so these, what am I saying? When you're told to always be clomping, it means you have to wear your clompers all the time. And while this tale takes place not that far in the past, if it is far enough in the past that nobody was going to school, particularly high school, in Crocs because they hadn't been invented yet. And, so their shoes were also a thing where they said, man, I can't believe I got to wear these clogs or clomps to school. And, I guess the short version is they were when the story starts, they were wearing clompers, which are like clogs. They're noisy shoes, though they make them more of a clomp than a clog. A clog doesn't make a clog sound, though. I mean, I guess you could make it if you could. I think you'd have to make some sort of hollow out motion to make your clog go clog, right? Like a clog. Maybe you need the right floor, too. Because a clog sounds more like a clock. I mean, not like a clock on a wall, like the sound that the word, like a clock. Or I guess a clomp, like the horses clomp, clickety-clackety clock. But so in this tale, starting out, two siblings, Corn and Corn, Cornelius and Cornelia, were in their clomps, and they're out. They decided one day, they were like, let's just leave school, and let's go on an adventure together. Now, this adventure wasn't totally impulsive or totally rebellious because at first they decided this because they were supposed to do a report on they're supposed to do a report like for like their thesis. I don't know. This wasn't the end of senior year of high school, so maybe it was junior year, maybe it was the beginning of senior year. I know this tale's been passed down. I mean, this tale's been told obviously millions of times, but only in word of mouth. So, not everything. And obviously when, maybe I wasn't totally listening to the person that told, I said, wait a second, can you tell me what they look like again? So I could picture it in my mind. And they said, I'm trying to tell you the story. They said, so they look like Crocs. No, I didn't say that. So anyway, that's how it went for me. When I first heard the tale, to get it to you, they said, this isn't a good use of my time. And they said, are you telling me a story about people clomping around? I don't know if you're one to judge. This all happened within my imagination, a three-way conversation. Okay, so where were we? So they left school to go to a museum because they decided, because ABC men always be clomping, they needed to do something about like influences of history, something a historical project that involved history and geography. And they decided to do one on flooring and walking and its impacts on history. Though they just proposed the idea, and the teacher said, okay, why don't you go to the museum, the history of the Museum of, Organic and Natural Occurrences or whatever. And why don't you try to do some research there? And it happened to be they lived in a really good area, like a very nice urban area, part of the world. I mean, I never said this was in the U.S., right? Could be anywhere. Could be right by you. But they had like access to multiple museums in one location or nearby. So they could go to like the history and science museums all together. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's like, maybe it was a Smithsonian. I have no idea because I didn't think to ask. I was more consumed with what do the shoes look like. And then I went off like, what are those things called you stick in the, like, I bought some for my daughter and they fell out. And the person's like, what? And I said, well, okay, one time I bought I bought my daughter those things you stick in your shoes to make them decorative, and they all fell out. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, never mind, go ahead, but please proceed. So, okay, so the first place they headed was like the place with like, where they could go and see the, like the dinos, right? Because that's like a popular section. They both remembered it from when they were kids. And they said, let's go to that part of the museum, and that within the museum where we could see the dinos, superstructures of dinos, fake dinos, and all stuff like that. Now, here's the great part. The professor also was like, taught them some skills to be able to explain themselves and said, hey, you just go there and tell them why you're there. You know, this is who I want you to meet at the museum. You're going to go, like you're going in off season, off hours. So you should be able to really do this. And also, this was an audio-focused project, and I don't know if it was their focus. Again, I was so distracted when I was hearing this tale. I said, like, are the museums connected? They said, it doesn't matter. I said, like the mall, like where you could go from one to the other, because I never did. I'd like to do that. You know, Stevie B lives somewhere near there. We could see Stevie B and walk those museums. How many museums do you think I could go to in a day? So I guess while I was talking about that, the person was saying that they were going to record themselves walking. And I guess, again, this is in this era, maybe we just not do it this way. But, you know, this is a tactile story. And it's also, you know, just a junior high school, like a high school project. No offense, but you get a little more leeway when you're doing that. So they went to this museum. They went to the dino section. They met, I guess it wouldn't be a docent. And that's another tangent I went on when the person was trying to tell me the story. I said, what's a docent anyway? And they just stared at me. And I said, what was a decent docent? Like a decent, was the docent decent? Was it a decent docent? Did the decent donuts, decent docents eat donuts? Delicious donuts with decent So, I don't know what a docent, I think a docent is someone that, I don't know what they are because the person walked away from me. Okay, so Corn and Corn got to this museum. Holy cow, did they? And they met with someone in authority from the museum. Maybe a docent, maybe not. But the person was decent because they said, okay, tell me about your project. And they said, well, it's going to take a while, but we'll give you the short version for Scoots' sake. We're clompers, which is similar to clogging. And basically wear these clomping shoes like all the time. And we thought, that, it's always been something, and that, a person that works in a museum is going to get this, the right person. They met with the right person, and she was like, okay, I'll bet that makes school hard. Yeah, oh, yeah, it does. And you say you're in a family of dancers. Like, what kind of dance? Clomping. We clomp around in these shoes. They're kind of, they make a unique sound. And it's unique, and there's a lot of, it's a creative constraint. And she goes, oh, I love creative constraints. So I work in a museum. She goes, nature is my creative constraint. And everyone said, man, you should put that on a T-shirt for museum workers, or we could give it as an award. And she said, okay, let's focus on you kids. I want to help you. And they said, so we were thinking about the ground in history, but, we got to get this done. And we were going to record ourselves walking on different pieces of ground in our clomping shoes, and then figure out, then we'll write a report about it somehow. She goes, oh, okay, so process-based. You don't know what it is till you do it, huh? And they said, yeah, it's kind of similar to like the new clomping movement, which, is kind of like our families on that end of it. We've actually been ostracized from the main, the great clomping movement. We're not pop clompers. I mean, we actually become pop clompers because the whole idea of clomping is just clomping around. So we're here to do that for history and science for a high school project. She goes, okay, so tell me more, because the ground in here, even in the exhibits, if I get what you're saying, you want to walk around on the inside of the exhibits. And they said, yeah. And she said, okay, scientifically this won't be accurate at all, but you're going to record yourself walking in your clompers in this exhibit, this dino exhibit, and you're going to make a report about it. And they said, hopefully. Also, we'd like to take as long as possible because we need a break from school anyway. And she said, I totally get it. Go for it. So they went into the exhibit. Now, like a large majority, I should talk to my friends at I Know Dino podcast. But, I'm just working off the material I got from this other person who told me the tale. But, like, these are tales never told. And when you get a tale never told to you within your imagination, it's a doozy, man. So there's two typical archetypal, within my mind, all archetypes that sleep with me only exist within my mind. There's like a dry, hard sand environment you see dinos in. And then there's like a grassland. And maybe you get some marsh swamp. So those are the three. But in the museum, your marsh swamp area is going to be manufactured. So we're talking mainly lucite. From my totally 100%, it's lucite. So they got in there and they start clomping around. First, they're going through the sand-like area, which is just hard. Looks like sand at a distance, but it's not sandy. Otherwise, it'd be blown around the museum. So it's kind of like a scrapey, not quite the thing that you see when you visit someone and they have that thing in the bathroom, a pumice stone. You say, I wonder what they like. I don't still like it. And never mind. But let me just block that right out. There's some advice. If you ever see a pumice stone, no offense if you use one, because I don't know. Just block it out of your mind. If you're a guest, block it out of your mind. Pumice stones. That's one thing. It's okay to suppress and block out of your mind. Though I'm guessing it's just for like something on your foot or something, but I don't know. Maybe I got, but so it's like the texture probably like a little bit rougher than a pumice stone, but it looks like sand. So they went around there, and first they were walking, and they took turns like miking each other. They were using a boom mic and a couple other different techniques because they must have had somebody. I said, yeah, why don't you use like a couple different mics too if you can? It's going to make your editing a lot longer. But so they like did some walking, then they did some shuffling, then they did some jumping. Then they start playing Mother May I. So then they did this, like it was kind of good. May I take, because they knew they were going to edit it, right? And they're having a good time. And the scientist, the museum person, she was having a good time watching them. So first they did it on the sandstone. That's just what I'm calling it. Then they went into the next room and they did it on like the fake grasslands, which I like. It kind of created like a wishing sound, mostly like it's fake grass, like fake tall grass. They did have to be careful in some parts that were more artistically designed not to be walked through. But there were areas, because people, believe it or not, people got to clean these things. I mean, I've never heard anyone that said, "Oh yeah, natural history. I'm the bone polisher." Like, I guess because it's like as soon as you say it, you start blushing. But I'm assuming that's a real thing. I mean, if at least like the leading natural history museums. Or that'd be, I mean, I guess that'll be another episode we do down the road. The old old Bernie the bone polisher. He's internationally known to polish, not to rock a microphone, but to polish bones. He's the greatest bone polisher. And he, even if it's not real bone, he can polish that thing up. He's particularly adept at, he's good. He's the best. And does he bring his own? No, he works with you to find out, because some people use a wax, bone waxing is technically what he does. Bone cleaning, bone dusting. I mean, Bernie would tell you, like, always start with the dusting. And then you're going to find, like, depending on when the museum was last serviced, hey, there's some buildup here, so we're going to have to work. We're going to have to think about it. Is this real? Then we got to work with a very specific method. So that's what he told me. Don't talk about me on your podcast, because you're not, the scientific method and you do not go together. And I said, yeah, we're like a comedy team. He said, there's nothing funny about the scientific method. I said, you're a scientific bone polisher, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, it's so funny. Like, so that was it between me and Bernie the bone polisher. Luckily, that happened in my imagination, too. So, okay, so they went through the grasslands, and they got some good swishing. They could less stunt walking, stunt clomping there, because obviously, like, you got to be careful. Like, they're very careful. Then they went into the swamp, which was lucite, but the thing was, or like something, I don't know, fake swamp, no water, made to look like swampy water. You've seen it. If you've been to one of these museums, seen it once, I've seen it 12 times in my life. But yeah, it's like plastic. Sometimes it's got green and it has layers. Really resilient. Now, again, just a note, somebody's got to also clean that on a regular basis. Maybe this is Night at the Museum 5. The lucite mopper and the bone polisher. Night at the Museum. Ben Stiller, could you get back to me on this? How many? I mean, like, how many have there been? Because it could be. I mean, we could do 3. But so they're walking around there in that thing, and now this is a really good one, because this is a good thing they were recording it. This made some sounds, because one. I mean, spoiler: the lucite is built on a platform. Make it, because this is where you got your brontosaurus. Typically, this will be like your brontosaurus. That's like not it could be animatronic or just a statue. Usually, you're gonna have a few. It's gonna have. I mean, talk about trope. It's got the vegetation hanging out its mouth, and it's in a swamp. And This is just one of the things, part of the, within my mind, the history museums in my mind. But so because of that, some areas of the lucite are going to be hollow. Some are thicker than others. And then because of the uneven layers, to give it a three-dimensional look, because you can't have if you're going to build a fake swamp, put some effort in. And they did at this museum. So it has different layers, right? Or different strata. Is that strata? And stuff, look like different greens, like lily pads. All of it was like solid to the floor, nothing breakable or anything. So these two were clomping around in there. And you had like, you're walking with the lucite, which would change. Then you'd hit a different layer or thickness. Then they realized how tough this lucite was, or whatever the material was. I don't know. That's just a material that my brain told me to say. Thick layers of plastic-like material. I don't know. But so you could go clomping around in there and really do it up, and that they did. So they got those 3 recordings done, and they're like, wow, this is great. This is great stuff. And then they went to the next section of this museum, which was, again, and these museums are kind of changing. I think probably the first one I went to was in New York City. We have them here in San Francisco. But they're changing, these are kind of these older exhibits that, and actually my brother worked on one to kind of put some animation in there. Because they're not known for their kinetic motion, and they don't normally have like animatronics. They just have still statues, right, of different parts of the world and beings in our world throughout history after the dinos. And as you're going through the time periods that I don't know about, like I don't know my a pale from a Paleozoic, I just don't. Paleozoic who? I don't even know any other air. Pleistocene, please. Pleistocene, yes, whatever. I don't even have prehistoric. My jokes are prehistoric, but they're not prehistorically bad. They're prehistorically inaccurate. Pleistocene, please. I don't know. There are jokes in those. There are people that could create jokes out of that stuff, but I don't even know any other. I wish I had. Is there one Cenozoic? Because I don't have a joke for it, but that popped in my brain too. But so they went to this other one that had like things that kind of looked like giraffes, and this was in a little bit different. The land in this one, and again, my memory could be, it was fake snow, some sort of Arctic tundra. I mean, I may be mixing up 2 exhibits too, so maybe it wasn't giraffes, but in my mind, that's what it looks like. And what could be cuter than 2 twins, both that go by corn, in clomping shoes, playing a game like, so, hey, sister, may I skip 5? Skip? Yes, you may skip 5 times. Okay. And then I guess it's like it's not really a great one-on-one game, except if you're recording it and just trying to make a school project fun. Then there you go. Some free advice, not very useful, but, so they're skipping through this fake tundra. Now the material in this fake tundra, because this is an older section of the museum, was, again, a bit more like what do you call that? Not a paper mache, a plaster, but the plaster was then covered in, some sort of layer of, protective goop, like is that what a varnish is? A I always picture varnish is shiny, but some sort of sealant layer makes it easier to clean, protects the plaster from ever breaking down, and it creates another set of interesting sounds as they're like hopping around in there and skipping around. So they went to that one. And then suddenly, though, they were told they had to go, like, they said, hey, we've got, like, the scientist came and said, hey, like, you got to move on to the next museum. And they said, okay, like, your time up here, you know, we got another set of kids coming in. And they said clompers, and the woman just laughed. No. But, yeah, we got other students we have to service. So they headed into the next museum, which was kind of like whatever, attached or really close by. Now, this museum was interesting because I guess I wasn't paying attention when the person told me the story at this point. So the next thing I remember, I guess these were historical exhibits, which I guess makes sense. One was a bank. And I guess say, okay, well, yeah, I haven't been in a bank. I mean, I haven't been in like an old-fashioned bank, except for a restaurant that got made into a bank in a long time. I mean, honestly, the last time I think I was in a bank was 2 years ago to get loose change for a trip, vacation, where I was going to make everybody spend like, I was giving everybody money every day and saying, hey, everybody spend $2 and tell me what cool thing you got. But that didn't work anyway. But so they're in this bank, but it's a fake bank, right? But it looks like a bank. Also like a play, like it was for instructing kids. It probably had streetmosphere or whatever, like a bus. It could be a bustling bank. Also, I guess they could also shoot movies if they wanted to, because this had everything. So it had carpeting in like the area where you meet with the bankers, right? And then it had desks, and they had no limits. So they're clomping around on the carpet and clomping around, you know, like skipping and jumping. And then they're on the desks. And I mean, they weren't just clomping, they're tap dancing, balleting. Then they're on like whatever the floor is. I don't think a marble floor. Well, there's like a granite and marble. I mean, I'm just guessing. Then they get into the vault, and oh boy, this vault is like a metal floor. You know, flooring of vaults is one thing that's only occasionally glamorized. Because when you see that door, you're like, oh boy, that's a door, man. And then you see the walls, but then you're usually looking at what's in the vaults versus the floor. So this could escape you, you know, that at least in this particular vault, it had metal floor. And it was a thick metal floor, but it was also like echo, because the only thing in the vault was like fake stuff. So they did a lot of that, dancing around the vault. And then they were even pretending they worked at the bank, which is very funny. But like they could do a lot of this in silence, because they were clomping, and there is interpretive, like dramatic clomping and interpretive clomps, you know, whatever. So spiritual clomping is the thing. I mean, it just is. So they did that. Then I guess they didn't realize, like, or I just wasn't paying attention. Like, they went into another area that was wet. But I think it was just an area that was being cleaned in this museum. So it had like a couple inches of water on the floor. And then I'm pretty sure they went into like a gag museum, like not a gag museum. Well, maybe they did. Like, it was a gag museum of gags and other, or like, pop-up museum, I guess is what you'd call it. So they went in this pop-up museum, or maybe it was like a museum about pop-up museums within the museum. That would make more sense. The Smithsonian Museum of Pop-Up Museums. Yeah, I think that's maybe a new thing. That's a new wing that I just invented. But so they went into there. Holy cow! Oh yeah, that makes sense. So there was like the graham cracker museum, and the main things they were interested in though was one, there was a room full of graham crackers, and they could just walk through I mean, like you're talking. And again, they figured out the one of the big graham cracker companies was nearby, and they would use their discards, so nothing was wasted. But yeah, they were like clomping around, and there were some that were regular graham crackers, and you have your honey grahams, and then you have like your cinnamon covered grahams, and we're talking. What are we talking? Like 6 to 12 inches of graham crackers on the floor. And a lot of it, because of they had the special access, you're talking uncracked graham crackers. Then there was like the graham play area. It's like the corporate graham area. So you had like Teddy Grahams and the Keebler Elves. It was like a play area. But that was pretty good, like, because they were able to play in those. But there was also like free samples. So they were able to, I mean, maybe this isn't the greatest thing, but they were walking through the free samples, which really did create its own kind of interesting sound, like a bag. I don't even know if Teddy Grahams are still around. I just remember that commercial from when I was a kid, because people just wanted to eat their teddy bears. But yeah, they were going through those little baggies, like stepping in them. They were trying to crush everything in a way that was I mean, maybe it was a little rebellious. So that was pop-up museum. Then there was the pop-up. So this is the unofficial Smithsonian Museum of Pop-Up Museums. So the next one was the Gag Museum, which had gags, which are like rubber chickens, room of rubber chickens, of course. So that was like, walking through that, and a lot of them made a noise when you stepped on them. So just imagine the kind of sound they were getting from there. Then they had like a room full of buzzers, which is like a metal thing you would wind up, and then you would use it to shake somebody's hand. I think it would just spin around, and different stuff like that. So just more, I'm trying to think what else, the Gag Museum, squirting flowers. So that one also had that one was like a pretty cool thing. I mean, this is probably one of the greatest pop-up museums you've never been to. But you go through into this one room, and it's like got a wall, very Instagrammable. Also, if this ever gets done, please give me all the money. Like, obviously, and Smithsonian, call me. I mean, we could do this. I mean, I couldn't do anything for it. I've been declared not part of the scientific. I've been like this in the book of opposites. There's scientific method, and then me. They say the scientific method has a resentment. They said, I'd like you to be carbon dated. And I said, oh, this sounds delightful. I've never been on a date with carbon before. They say the scientific method's rolling its eyes at you. But, so this was a room of so there used to be these squirting flowers. Fozzie the Bear's famous in Muppet Vision 3D for having a squirting flower. It's like a flower you wear on your lapel. Then you have a little squirter, and you could squirt people. You say, hey, would you like to smell my flower? This was before my time, but this was a big thing. A lot of the stuff they would sell in comic books, but whatever, that room, I mean, I was talking about how Instagram, it's a wall of flowers, but then they spray you, and it's like based on stuff on the floor and stuff, sensors. But because they had free access to it. And I think there was even a puzzle, because these pop-up museums, you gotta one up the next one. This is, again, part of the museum, part of the pop-up museum. The Museum of Pop-Up Museums was showing the progression of pop-up museums through history. Very important stuff. So you get sprayed by water, but then you have like a wet floor. That's only a little bit wet. So they did that. Then the next room was like a fake ice cube. That was another big thing. Fake ice cubes, plastic ice cubes with stuff in there that you wouldn't want to have in your cold drink. And so then they go through that room. And I mean, then you're kind of stepping on and kicking. It's kind of like a ball pit, but with fake ice cubes. But they're also like, to talk about lucite. I'm pretty sure those are made of lucite too. Lucite, Sleep With Me, now made of lucite. Scientific Method just called. It said, I'd like you to be in a cube of lucite. Say you're delightful. How about we go on a carbon date together? Okay, man, I didn't think I'd ruined it all with the Scientific Method tonight. I take it all back, all the way back to the beginning of time. Okay, so they went through that part of the gag museum, and they got that stuff done. Then they went to, other than the graham cracker one, obviously pop-up museums, one of the bigger things is like different not edibles like 420 edibles, like edibles. So they went through there, and then they got a lot of interest. There's like different hard candy museum. These were all mini museums within the mini pop-up museums within the Museum of Pop-Up Museums. This was another section. Said like the candy necklace type of stuff, candy bracelets, gum. Maybe it's all one. I don't know. Then there's like different frozen, you got your popsicle pop-up museum. So room of popsicle sticks. And then they got, pudding museum, like Jello Jiggler museum. Can you imagine the sounds? Maybe you like barely detectable to human ear of two people clomping through a room full of Jello Jigglers. Nothing like they were jiggling it in the Jello Jigglers, man. And pudding. I think there was a whipped cream museum. Graham cracker we already covered. It's interesting they went to that the graham cracker pop-up museum got its own museum, it wasn't in the mini museum section. But whatever. And then other stuff like that. I think the ones that stuck out to me though were the popsicle sticks, pudding. I don't know, because it's like it's kind of like stepping in like muck and mud. But they were cracking each other up. They're like, "Is that butterscotch I hear? Oh no, this is whatever, caramel corn." I said, "There's caramel corn Jello." No, I was just kidding. But so they spent the day, man, getting all this audio right and clomping around. And what happened was, by the time they left, they were tired, right? They had actually got a pass to stay at the museum the whole weekend. This isn't what, even though I did a briefer version, I don't know where they slept, but that would be a dream come true for me. And talk about living vicariously. But so they were like energized. They were exhausted and energized. And they returned home, and their family, they live with their extended family. Everyone was like, they knew that they were going through the stage of being fed up with clomping, right? But they had so many new ideas about clomping. And also they said, "Why? How come there's not a pop-up museum? What if we did a fake pop-up show that's a pop-up museum about clomping?" And it would also include people's, the regular public's reaction to clomping. So that was a show that the whole family started working on, Clompin' Pop-Up, Pop-Up Clompin'. It also had pop-up books involved in it. And I said, "Is that what did they call their grandfather Pop-Up Clomp?" And the person told me, said, "Okay, we're almost at the end here. Can I just finish my story?" I said, "Oh, sure." But so they brought all this back to school, right? And they had all this audio. Holy moly. Like, I mean, and you've never edited audio before, but it's nothing worse than seeing a project with like 4 hours audio that you have to diligently listen to. And so the teacher was kind of helping them import all the files and listening to it and saying, okay, so what is your thoughts about this and how are you going to do a report about it? And they said, well, we don't know because we just had so much fun clomping around. We were mostly just clomping around. And the teacher said, hey, I picked up on that. And the teacher said, okay, well, like you got to come up with a history. This is like a tactile history project. And you got a lot of sounds. Like, what is it you're hearing? And you did it in a historical area. But it's not actually, it's a manufactured historical area, right? And they said, yeah, you're right. And so the teacher said, can you hear anything, like is anything else sticking out to you that you could do? And they said, sounds of the pop-up museums and other stuff, and he said, well, like, let's watch, have you ever, he said, once upon a time, theme parks used to have like sound experiences. And there used to be like, and he showed him these YouTube, I guess it was before YouTube. So maybe he just had a VHS of like a Foley artist at like Disney MGM Studios. There was like a show. And Foley artist was a part of it. And that was the one time, I think I actually participated in it once and did it. And he said, you know, oh, and they said, okay. And so they brought these sounds to a Foley artist, thinking, oh, we'll do a history of Foley artistry. And we'll somehow work these sounds in. The Foley artist they got an interview with was like, these are some of the best, this is some of the best stuff I've ever heard. Like, this is like a new thing. It's like we're trying to collect sounds that we can't create in, with our limited equipment. This could really help our library. Plus, you got really high-quality audio recordings. And these became this legendary, they said, the Foley artist said, well, yeah, we can put it on, we can sell it to a catalog or, work it out. End up paying for them to go to school. But they said, well, the Foley artist said, hey, what do you want to be known as? The Clomps, the corny Clomps. And they said, no, he said, it's like you did accidental Foley. You're accidental Foley artists. And they said, yeah, let's just do one, though, the accidental Foley artist. And, yeah, so that's how they became the accidental Foley artist. Quite a tale never told. But thanks and good night, everybody. All right, but Scoots here. This is your Tuck-You-In message, mostly for super listeners, though any listener that's listening right now, you could partake in this by, like, if you're a temporary listener, you're a new listener, you only listen from time to time. Remember that what I talk about in the intro, other listeners are rooting for your good night's sleep so you can receive that energy and comfort across the deep, dark night that other listeners are sending you. And you could send it out right now, right? You could send out your comfort or rooting for other people, even if they can't sleep, even if they're awake right now, that they have some comfort and relief, some companionship or some distraction in the deep, dark night. So you can receive or send any listener. You could do that. Now, with super listeners, would love it if you're, particularly if you're listening right now and you happen to be listening and hearing me and you fall asleep fast or you're an all-night listener, you're the two key demographics that literally the future of Sleep With Me will depend on if any of you end up hearing me and listening to me. More than are currently doing so, or if I just slowly get through to more people that fall asleep fast, people that listen all night long, and then any other super listeners, people that have been listening over 3 years, people that have been listening over a year, people that have been listening over 5 years, people that listen 4, 5, 6, 7 nights a week. You're the listeners I kind of need. Well, I mean, the reality is, like, if you're listening to me right now and hearing me, whether it's in this tuck you in message or before the podcast starts or in the mid-roll of the podcast, the reality is you're like, and I think a lot of people dismiss this, but the stats back it up. Really, you're the one person listening and hearing me right now. And that's why I'm trying this new approach, you know, because we still have to get through to people whose lives are made better by the podcast, that we need your support on Sleep With Me Plus. But it starts before that, right? And while I have to keep asking for support and keep pointing out how important it is if you value the podcast to support it back, and that Sleep With Me Plus was built with super listeners in mind, no ads, different versions of the show designed for people that fall asleep fast, people that listen all night long, people that have very specific favorites and like to build playlists of their favorites, people with particular tastes about the podcast of certain episodes but not other styles of episodes, people that are super fans of the podcast, super listeners, people, and I don't know, or if you're hearing me and listening to me right now, are you a super listener? If not, just root for other listeners or be rooted for. Or if you're curious, check out a trial of Sleep With Me Plus. But any super listener, there's 4 stages, I guess. Let me look at my notes here. Well, the whole thing I've been doing in the intros over the past few months and in the last minisode is that we're here rooting for other listeners, right? Or being rooted for in the deep, dark night. Because that's what the show's about, is like gentle caring, gentle relief at a distance, sending comfort across the deep, dark night to people that are out there, people just like you, or people a lot different than you, but that we all share something, right? And now is where I'm trying to deepen that conscious connection and choice in a multitude of ways. So each time you listen to the show now, you get this chance to participate in a passive way and think about who else is listening right now. Like, are you, because there's a strong possibility when I get to these messages that you might be the only one listening and paying attention right now, but maybe there are a couple other people listening and paying attention right now. And do they listen the same style as you? Are they struggling with sleep in the same way you struggle with, or is it different? And can you root for them? Maybe they're an all-night listener, or maybe they fall asleep fast, or maybe they're an occasional listener just going through a tough time. And you can decide, do you want to root for them? Do you want to send them comfort right now across the deep, dark night? And can you sense that they're out there rooting for you to fall asleep, or to have some relief, or to have a distraction and a friend in the deep, dark night? That they're bore friends with you, right? That not just me as the person that narrates this podcast, but that there's someone else out there hoping that your life is more manageable tomorrow, and ideally that you could be out there flourishing on a regular basis. And if you're a super listener, right, particularly, again, if you're an all-night listener, you listen multiple times a week, or you fall asleep fast, or you've been listening for years, maybe you're the one all of us are quietly rooting for to support the show, because we do need to reach that goal of 1,500 super listeners supporting the show back. And that's out of a large number of super listeners. But the thing is, most super listeners are like, no, so it's someone else will do it. Or I'll do it later. Well, right now, you could do it, right? You could root for another person. You could be rooted for. You could do both of those things. Or you could support the show, or you could root for someone else to support the show. Who is it out there that you're rooting for? Like, who is going to be that hero or heroine? And maybe they're hearing, maybe you're the one, you're hearing all the other listeners starting to root for you. Are you out there? Are you going to support the show Maybe you support it because you want ad-free episodes. You're supporting it for yourself, and it helps other people. Or maybe you're supporting it because you listen all night long, and it's just more convenient to support the show and listen all night long. Maybe you're going to support it because you want it to be there for you in 6 months or 12 months or 3 months from now. Maybe you're going to support it because you know the podcast makes your life better. And you hear me, and you know I'm serious. They say, hey, we can't do this without, especially all-night listeners and people that fall asleep fast, but all super listeners, a percentage of them supporting the show back. That's how we pay the bills. That's how we're able to be here. But maybe it's not you, but can you root for that person? But maybe it is. Can you feel all those listeners rooting for one another? And then rooting for that one person out of 20, right? That's who we need, of super listeners. So are you those 19 people getting rooted for and rooting for? That's pretty cool. It's cool enough. Or are you the person we're all rooting for to support the show? If you're hearing me and listening for me right now and you can hear that, it's like yeah. Rooting for you to support the show. Don't wait, right? That's the biggest thing I've been learning from this campaign, from the people that do end up supporting the show. They're like, yeah, I was tuning you out. Or I was kind of passing on the message saying, I'll do it later. Somebody else would do it. I want to do it, but I don't know. How many of those listeners are rooting for you right now to overcome those small obstacles and support the show right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus? I know I'm rooting for you, but I'm rooting for every listener. That's why I'm here. That's why the show isn't behind a paywall. That's why I work so hard, and that's why I'm willing to put myself out here and kind of be, have other listeners have strong feelings about me asking directly, because you're important. And that's why I show up day after day, night after night. I love making the show because I love participating in this thing where I know what it feels like for me in the deep, dark night. You know what it feels like for you in the deep, dark night. And you know there's other people out there that share this with us. And in the end, that's really what it's about. So I don't know if you could feel that. And I don't know if you could send it or receive it. And sometimes you might need to receive that energy. Sometimes you might want to send it. But a lot of times it's just nice knowing it's there, at least for me, knowing that you're out there and the other listeners are out there too. So thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you decide the podcast has changed your life for the better, and you want to make sure it's like you want to be that person we're all rooting for, you could support the show right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. And then set up the bonus content tomorrow when you're more awake. Thanks.